Hello and welcome. My name's Thomas, and in this episode we'll be looking at challenge number 11, open the Sleigh shop door. So looking at what we'll be doing, visit Shinny Uppetry in the student union and help solve their problem. Before we do that, we're going to be talking to Kent Tinseltooth. Okay, so Kent is having issues with voices in his head because his smart braces are not configured correctly, and we need to help him out by configuring IP tables as it should be configured. So let's open up that terminal. First we'll have a conversation between Kent and a supposed inner voice, but I'll just try and skip over that. There we go. And we'll open up the documentation for the smart braces, because at the end of that documentation is where we'll find the necessary IP tables rules. So first of all, set the default policies to drop for the input, forward and output chains. So that's 3 rules, and those look like the following. Drop on all 3. Create a rule to accept all connections that are established and related on both the input and the output chains. So let's add rules for those specific states. There we go. Create a rule to accept only remote one particular IP address to access a local SSH server. Okay, so source is that IP address, and then protocol is TCP and destination port is 22. There we go. Next up, we have create a rule to accept any source IP to the local TCP services on ports 21 and 80. So we need to allow access to FTP and non-encrypted web traffic. There we go. And then create a rule to accept all output traffic with destination TCP port of 80. So outbound web traffic needs to be enabled as well. There we go. Same thing, but now we have destination port and the output chain. And last but not least, we need to also accept traffic from the low interface. Local interface, that is. There we go. And hopefully, yes, there it goes. The voice in his head should be gone now, and the IoT or smart braces have now been configured correctly. So we can close that out. Let's see what Kent has to say. Have you tried getting into the crate? Well, not yet. And he gives us some information about some special tools that we can use. So Chrome Developer Tools, Safari, Firefox, Edge, curl, etc. Perfect. So let's head out over to the right here to the Sleigh shop door, which is still locked, and let's talk to Shinny Uppetry. See what he has to say. Hey there. Okay, guarding the Sleigh shop door. He is privy to some interesting intel. Doesn't matter if we guess. We need to break into the crate. So let's copy that link. There we go. So let's head on over to that link and open the crate. There we go. So we're gonna be needing the developer tools. And because I want to definitely see things loaded in my network tab, I'm going to refresh the page as well. There we go. So we have a couple of locks that we need to unlock, and they seem to have some hints on here as well. So let's go through those hints and see if we can get that crate opened up. You don't need a clever riddle to open the console and scroll a little. So console, scroll up, and there's our first access code. That unlocks that first lock. Some codes are hard to spy, perhaps they'll show up on pulpit die. Now the tip here is that if you would select the print preview, you would see that particular element, which isn't hidden in the print preview, but it is in the normal HTML page. The alternative is if you right click and do an inspect element here, you'll notice that there's a strong tag here that's defined, but it has a display none. So that's why this code is not showing up on the page. So add that in. Oh, I made a mistake because I forgot one value. There we go. Unlock. Then the next one. This code is still unknown. It was fetched but never shown. Okay, that's the reason I actually loaded the network tab. Because this is the code that I'm looking for. it's an image artifact that was downloaded, or an image resource rather that was downloaded, but it was never shown. B9B, 1B, 68H, and we unlock that as well. Where might we keep things with forage? Yes, of course, local battles. So go to the storage tab, local storage, and you'll find some actual battles in there. And those contain an access code. So we can unlock that as well. Did you notice the code in the title? It may very well prove vital. Well, let's head up back to our main tab here, open up the head section, and then the title. And there it is, another access code. So adding that access code as well. Next up, in order for this hologram to be effective, it may be necessary to increase your perspective. So let's look at that hologram. And we see that it has a perspective set. So if we remove that perspective attribute or property, you see that the code appears. So DJL 590N8. Hopefully I didn't make a mistake with zeros and O's. Yep, that seems to be correct. The font you're seeing is pretty slick, but this locks code was my first pick. Well, this is related to a style definition, CSS definition in the header, which specifies a font family, but one of the font names, or sorry, font family names is not a font family name, but a access code. So copy that in. In the event that the eggs go bad, you must figure out who will be sad. So inspect again. What's different on this particular eggs class and the span that's around it is that there's an event listener defined on this. So if we click on the event listener and we click on the actual function name here, we go to a specific section of the code which says window Veronica is going to be sad. So Veronica seems to be the answer here. This next code will be unredacted, but only when all the chakras are active. So inspect the elements. We have a few span tags with chakra classes on there. So select one of them. Let's edit those. Set them as active. And now when you click on them, it'll actually show pieces of the code. So TU is the first portion. Unredacted has GL in there. Only has P. When has, I think it's N0. I hope it's N0, otherwise I need to start again. And this is I. And we're correct. And then the last lock, oh no, this lock's out of commission. Pop off the cover and locate what's missing. This is actually an exercise, I'd say, about document object DOM manipulation, so document object model manipulations. So let's open up or go into the code for that lock. There we go. So the first thing we need to do is remove that cover. We can do that in two ways. Either we remove this class, but the problem is that the button is still there, and it's a nicer visual if we do it differently. So let's put that cover back on. There we go. And let's drag that whole tag outside of that list item. And now we actually have the button removed as well. And now we see the inside of the circuitry completely. So let's see. We now have a code that's showing up here in the bottom right hand corner. So if I go and grab that and copy that from my notes, which is going to be the easiest option here. And I paste that in. It doesn't seem to work. So let's go to the console. And we're seeing an error message that says missing macaroni. Now you could go and look at the JavaScript code, but the problem is that it's highly obfuscated. And while it would be possible to actually go in and copy out pieces of that code, translate it back to ASCII for the error messages, for example, and these kinds of strings as well. Another solution is, since we're missing macaroni, well, let's look for macaroni. Macaroni. And there is indeed a class called macaroni defined on a div here. So let's move that div inside of that lock. And we have a piece of macaroni that gets added. So click on the button, still nothing. but now we're still missing a cotton swab. So we can do the same as before and search for swab. There we go. And again, the same thing, a div with a particular class defined on it. So we add it in there as well. Now we can click on that button again. Still nothing, but we're still missing a gnome. So let's go and find that gnome. Gnome. And again, one more div that we have to drag into the log. So now we have our macaroni, our cotton swab, and our gnome in there. We have our code that we've copied out, or that we've typed over from the bottom right hand corner. So let's click that button again. And now it's successful and it opens, and we get the answer to the question. That intel that we were told was in the box. The Tooth Fairy seems to be the villain involved in this year's event. So let's use that, the Tooth Fairy, and add that to our badge. So let's move to the side here. Click on it. So let's enter that here. The Tooth Fairy, and submit. And that is the correct answer. Awesome. So let's exit out of that and finalize the conversation with Shinny, who seems to be pretty surprised we got into that crate. And is asking us if we're ready to help out bring all of this to a final conclusion. That is done. Okay, and the final challenge is going to be challenge number 12, filtering out poisoned sources of weather data. That's it for this episode. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.